Hey, tell you, walking trails up hills and up this mountain, it's pretty exhausting. Might as well stop and take a moment to chat with you. Whew. So I'll tell you, last 3 weeks, we've been walking trails and everything, and we've been talking about trust. And trust is it's putting your confidence in someone you can depend on. And we've been talking about trust, and it doesn't seem to really match up with who we've been talking about, right? We've been talking about Joseph, and we've been talking about Jacob, and we've been talking about Abraham, and, right on, just when you look at it, it doesn't really seem as though there's a lot of reason to trust there. There are a lot of bad things that happen. Jacob, he tricks his brother Esau. Joseph, who we've been learning about and we're going to continue to learn about today, just to review, Joseph, his brothers, they don't like him. As if that's not bad enough, they throw him in a well. As if that's not bad enough, they take this coat that their father Jacob had given to him that was really, really nice, and they smeared some blood on it, and they lied to their dad about him being dead. As if that wasn't bad enough, they sell Joseph to these traders going to Egypt. And as if that's not bad enough, last week we learned that somebody, Potiphar's wife, tells this lie about Joseph, and Joseph gets thrown into prison. Pretty crazy, right? Trust, putting your confidence in someone you can depend on. Well, that is a pretty tough thing, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. That is a pretty tough deal. But here's the thing that kind of gets me through. As we keep on talking about Joseph, here's where we're going to land today. Remember how we talked about how Joseph went into prison, and then these two guys came in, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and they came in and they had some really disturbing dreams, and Joseph interpreted them. And the cupbearer, he gets released and he gets restored to his position and probably forgets about Joseph. And yet Joseph still serves God. He's still faithful. Well, guys, here's what happens. A couple years pass by, and Pharaoh, Pharaoh is just another word for like king or president or whatever you want to call it. Pharaoh has a dream. And everybody in his staff, no one on his staff of advisors can come close to like offer an interpretation of what this dream means. And Pharaoh, he is absolutely certain this dream has meaning. And then the cupbearer, he speaks up, and he says something to the effect of, it kind of pains me to bring this up, but a few years back, something happened, and I was put in prison along with the chief baker, and I was restored. I had a dream. I was restored just the way that my dream said it would be. The guy who interpreted that dream was a guy by the name of Joseph. He, as far as I know, he's still in prison. So they send for Joseph, Pharaoh does, and they give him time, to get ready and everything, because, being in a prison, he doesn't have, all of this, all these nice clothes. He hasn't had a chance to take a bath or a shower or anything like that. And so they give him a chance to clean himself up, and he comes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh, he tells him, listen, I've got a dream, will you interpret it for me? And Joseph, he has this really interesting response. He says, I can't, but you tell me the dream, and God will give you the answer that you need. And so, really interesting response, considering all of this. So I'm going to tell you something here in a minute that's going to blow your mind. So, Pharaoh, he tells Joseph this dream. He says, there were these 7 skinny cows, these really ugly cows, and then there were these 7 really beautiful cows. And if you've ever seen like a really really big cow. That's a beautiful cow. And really healthy and everything. And I think about the opposite of that, and that would be like these unhealthy, ugly cows. And so Pharaoh's like, oh, there's these unhealthy cows, these ugly cows, and then there's these healthy cows. And these healthy cows, there's 7 of them, and they eat, and man, everything is just beautiful. And then these ugly cows, they come up and they eat up the 7 beautiful cows. And that's pretty well the dream. And then he tells them there are these 7 heads of grain, 7 that are really gross, and there's 7 healthy heads of grain, and that's kind of the dream that he has. And Joseph, he tells him, listen, the 2 dreams, they're one and the same. Okay, they have one and the same meaning. Joseph, he says, what's going to happen is that Egypt, for the next 7 years, it's going to be a really amazing time. There are going to be record crops. It's going to be really, really good to live here. We're going to have tons of stuff. But after that, the 7 years after that are going to be famine. And famine, it's a condition where there's no rain, there's nothing. The crops don't grow because the crops don't grow. The animals that feed on the crops, that feed on the grass, they kind of get unhealthy. They kind of, aren't able to, provide food for everyone. And man, this is terrible news. To have, the next 14 years ahead of you, and 7 years of plenty, 7 years of bad. And then Joseph, he says, listen, it would probably be good to appoint somebody who's really, really wise to be able to administrate all of that. And here's kind of the cool thing. You start seeing, have you ever seen, on the internet, those dominoes, and you have this long train of dominoes going all the way around and everything, and you see them start to knock it over, and you start seeing, these dominoes that God has lined up, they start to fall. And Joseph, he's just there, he's fresh from prison, but Pharaoh, he sees what everybody else has seen. Potiphar has seen, he's seen what the chief jailer has seen, and putting him, in charge of everything. Joseph just does everything well. And I don't know if that word to reach back to Pharaoh or not, but Pharaoh, he says, listen, he says this to everybody around him, you seem to be really wise, and God is with you. You do that. And so Pharaoh, he makes Joseph second in command and over all of Egypt. And Joseph's job over the next 7 years is to make sure that these record crops, they get divided, they get saved, so that way they can supply, they can have plenty for the 7 years of famine. And man, that's a big, big job, but man, it's so cool to be able to see how God is working in the life of Joseph. Even when, last week we learned, even when it doesn't make sense, trusting God. This week, here's what I want you to learn. When the pressure is on, you can trust in God. And guys, there was a lot of pressure on Joseph. A lot of pressure over those first 7 years to get everything just right. And man, I tell you, next week, you'll see how right Joseph was and how God continues to kind of bring this whole story about Joseph to a close. We'll put a bow on it next week. I'm going to get back to hiking up this hill. You guys have a great week. Remember, we have a great big God that we can trust, and He has got this whole thing. He's got this whole thing in His hands. And so, guys, keep on loving each other. Keep on trusting in God. Even when things don't make sense, even when you feel like you're alone, even when you feel like the pressure is on, know that you can trust in God. See you guys later.